The Excelsior class starship is my favourite, and I'll be doing a video covering that class at some point in the near future, but in the meantime, I wanted to cover a specific vessel, the USS Lakota NCC 42768. This is a kind of Legacy Series video, however there is only this one vessel, and another Akira class that may have replaced it that I could find in the beta canon content, and there was not much on that latter vessel. The Excelsior class was a powerful ship when it was first launched in the 2280s and continued to see upgrades and refits well into the late 24th century, although they did take increasingly backseat roles to the newer ships. However, the Lakota seems to be the recipient of several more upgrades that possibly make it the most advanced classic Excelsior out there. The name is from the Teton Sioux Native American people, the Lakota, of whom Crazy Horse was also a member, one of the more prominent cultures. Launched in 2328, the Lakota was already the recipient of the advancements made for the Enterprise B refit of the Excelsior class. While the Enterprise variant was more advanced, not every new ship of this line would be built to those specifications, and the classical Excelsior still continued, although waned, with only 2 a year being built by 2330. These newer builds, regardless, had also been routinely upgraded from earlier models, with an inbuilt adaptability. The USS Lakota was deployed extensively during the Dominion War, and in 2372 was assigned to Admiral Layton's fleet, where it arrived at Deep Space Nine to escort Captain Sisko and Constable Odo to Earth to assess security. While at Earth, it also underwent further refits and upgrades, as well as a change of commanding officer, with the freshly promoted Captain Erica Bentine assigned to the post. However, the vessel, under orders from Admiral Layton, took part in his attempted coup until it became clear that the Admiral was acting outside of the chain of command, and it stepped down. Bentine was then demoted for her involvement back to Commander for a further year before she was assigned as captain to the USS Appalachia. Meanwhile, the Lakota went on to aid the survivors of the Marquis to relocate after they were defeated, and in 2375 the Lakota was back in the Sol system alongside the Enterprise E in defense against the Breen attack on Starfleet headquarters. The Lakota started as an Excelsior refit class, but had numerous updates installing current technology, including quantum torpedo launchers and Type 10 phaser banks. Naturally, the computer systems were completely overhauled, from the duotronic variety to isolinear systems too, but these adaptations were not visible from a simple visual inspection. The most notable change was that it possessed the 2 additional impulse drives on the rear of the saucer section, as well as its additional reactors. This gave it increased speed and a higher turn rate at impulse, but these were present on the Enterprise refit subclasses too. But the Lakota was special. They were also tied into a number of other systems. The reactors supply additional power to the weapons systems, and also the structural integrity field, allowing for feats of maneuverability that belie the ship's size. It also features an expanded secondary hull, like other refit classes. However, this additional volume was not dedicated to deflector systems like the others, but held an expanded targeting array, planetary sensor system, and a wider complement of quantum torpedoes. From this added specialization, it sounds like the Lakota was spec'd out for planetary bombardment or something, which is a terrifying prospect. But the advancements don't stop there. The warp nacelles themselves are adapted with additional field stabilizers that allowed the vessel to coast at warp speeds, even if depowered for a time, as well as generally improving efficiency. Additionally, the number of warp coils in the nacelles was increased too as they got smaller with time, leading to a much faster vessel than the Excelsior was originally. It was rated as being faster than a Galaxy class, but not as fast as an Intrepid, putting it around the Sovereign class in terms of maximum warp. The future of the Lakota is uncertain, with it still being in service in Star Trek Online but destroyed in the first Splinter timeline of the books. although it was due for further adaptation in 2375 after the war to receive some TLC at the Andorian Imperial Fleet Yard. If I had to speculate though, eventually I believe it would have been replaced by one of the new Excelsior II class starships of the early 25th century. Overall, the Lakota was in service for 47 years that we know of, probably longer, and it continued to hold its own against the wings of the Dominion even into the fiercest parts of the war. Ships like this go on to show how and why Starfleet continues to utilise older designs in their armada, especially when they are made to be easily upgraded. The Lakota, in particular, outlasted many other Excelsior vessels and even outshone newer ships in terms of its capabilities, power and performance. Not bad for a half-century old relic from Starfleet's golden era of exploration. Thanks for watching this video on the Lakota. I've been Rick, and I'll see you next time for another Lore Bite, and until then, thanks again, and goodbye.